Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Zenith, that podcast where sentient hunks of rotting flesh try to take over the galaxy, because this week we watched Star One.
Written by Christ Boucher.
Directed by David Maloney, allegedly uncredited.
And aired on April 3rd, 1979. That might have been, and I don't know the details about this, but David Maloney was a producer, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that dual role there. Maybe this is some sort of loophole thing they had to go through.
Right, they might not have credited him because he wouldn't be allowed to be credited as director if he's also producer of the show.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, though, why didn't they have someone else direct this story? Maybe they didn't have it in the budget. They're like, we can't pay another director. And David was like, I'll do it.
Or maybe
he
it was
stepped up with his hands on his hips like Superman, like, I'll direct this episode.
Or maybe it was, and I'm kind of thinking it was this, more like the Doctor Who situation where he's like, I want to direct an episode, but I can't, because I'm producer, or something along those lines.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, he gave us the best shot in all of Blake 7 in this episode, so.
Which is what, Travis falling into the spinning vortex?
Okay, no, but that's up there. That's like second.
Pretty sure the best shot is in Hostage, where you just get that wonderful shot of the bushes.
I really thought you were going to say The Keeper, where we get that close-up on Jenna's eye.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the most, iconic, I guess. Not iconic, but...
Iconic.
Oh, wow. Are you referring to this shot that opens the story, where you get, like, this really great model of, like, a civilian ship?
Yeah, this is basically just...
This is the best model. It's not the Liberator.
This opening shot or sequence is kid in his playpen plays with model ships.
I really liked this, though. I thought the model work here was great. And like
it was right up until the instant where they crashed into each other, and then it like
right,
metaphorically and literally fell apart.
That was like a split second. Come on.
Yes.
This episode also had a lot, and we'll get there because it's mainly at the end, but it had a lot of different models, and I was really surprised and pleased, I guess, with like how much forgetting the fact that it doesn't make sense that like this alien species ships look completely different one to the next. Mm-hmm. But like just the amount of ships they had, how cool they looked, and just the way it was all shot, I thought was great at the end of this episode, at least. Because what happens now is right what we explained. There's a civilian ship, and another ship crashes into it.
Yeah, and you're like, what's going on? And you're hearing the communications from like the civilian ship that's like, hey,
computers are malfunctioning, things like that.
Things are going wrong. We're looking for someone to land, help us out, and then just kaboom!
Yeah.
And then zoom out to reveal this guy Durkham is explaining to Servalan that these ships crashed. And then he goes on like a completely different tangent from that point where he's like, okay, well, so those ships crashed, but now let's look at all these other things. This planet hasn't rained for 60 days. This planet has been raining continuously for 60 days. This planet completely frozen over.
Well, this isn't a tangent because he sort of posits to Servalan, he asks her, what's the underlying commonality between all these planets? Mm-hmm. And Servalan says computers, right? And he says, well, yeah, computers, but specifically one computer, Star One, is controlling all these planets, and things are malfunctioning. Things are going haywire. Things are going completely wrong. Mm-hmm. And Servalan, I think refuses to believe that Star One, there's something wrong with Star One, but there's also something else going on here, which is that there's if I'm remember correctly, or if I'm understanding correctly, there's a military coup going on in the Federation.
Yeah, no, so the military coup doesn't happen right now. It happens the next time Durkham comes in. But Servalan refuses to believe that anything is wrong with Star One. One, because it's Star One and no one knows where it is, and two, because even if there was, they wouldn't be able to help because C.1, nobody knows where Star One is.
There's also some interesting stuff that I'm guessing has to do with Season 2 getting reshuffled and reordered, where Servalan doesn't know that Travis is heading to Star One to screw everything up. Or
or Travis has gone rogue again. It's
right.
kind of like the Mission Impossible movies where every movie Ethan Hunt goes rogue in every single movie. So when they name the movie Rogue Nation, you're just like, okay, but he's gone rogue in all of them. So then you're like, is Ethan Hunt ever actually going to finish a mission for the IMF, or is he just going to rogue every movie?
Well, or is it like one continuous story, or are they all like?
No, they're all separate. So every time he just goes rogue.
So it's just like they're basically all reboots of each other.
I guess, but they're supposed to be continuous because the other characters from movie to movie are like, Ethan, you can't keep going rogue, dude.
Huh, that's weird.
Then even the trailer for the new one is like, in the trailer of the new one, they're like, even make a point of this. They're like, Ethan keeps turning his back on the government, and the government keeps turning his back on him. Like, how long until he attacks us instead?
This is your 200,000th time going rogue, and you've become exceedingly efficient at it. I don't remember what iteration of the Matrix they were on in that line, honestly. It wasn't 200,000th.
No. Anyway,
the Liberator crew is up to...
no good.
Parentheses no, close parentheses good.
Well, so they're going to the coordinates, which are apparently in intergalactic space between, I guess, the Milky Way and Andromeda.
Right. I think Callie is the one who says this is the farthest out
point of the Milky Way.
They're wondering, because it's so far out, they're wondering if Star One is even there. And someone says, if it is there, this is the farthest out humans have ever been.
Yeah, and Villa also says, in the greatest line of this episode, we'll be able to know it when we see it, even if we won't be able to know it when we see it, because it'll be the only thing there to be able to be seen. And then Callie's like, shut up, Villa. And Villa's like, what did I say?
I mean, he's basically right, though, isn't he? Like, if there is anything there,
it has to be Star One.
It has to be Star One.
Well, so they go out there and they find a literal star with one planet around it, and then Villa's like, Star One.
Well, this also goes back to the point that we made, I think, in Series A, of, like, Villa actually having some pretty good points from time to time, and the rest of the crew just being like, shut up, Villa, or, like, completely ignoring him.
Well, then they're like, they mention the minefield, and Villa's like, oh, maybe we should turn around.
And they're like, no, don't worry about this. But yeah, so basically what the situation here is, or what this sort of...
Yeah, let's get the lowdown on the situation.
Star One is it's on a planet that's orbiting a star that's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's shot, this planet looks like the Death Star.
Yeah. Probably intentional. Star Wars was out by this point. By the time they even filmed this season, I think.
Oh yeah, Star Wars was out.
Star Wars is out.
Star Wars came out like a week after the first episode of Blake 7 aired in the UK. Came out like 6 months or so before in the US and elsewhere, probably.
So early enough that it was out before Series B was even filmed. So
right.
They would have easily been able to make a visual reference to it.
Right. But there's also, they think this is the farthest point out that humans have ever been, but there's this minefield that's even farther out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they detect it. And they're like, well, that's kind of weird. Must be something. And Avon brings this up. He's like, Avon's explanation doesn't really make sense to me, but I kind of just bought into it for the sake of the story. But Avon was like, if you wanted to travel between the Andromeda Galaxy and ours, this is the exact point you would have to go through. Like, every road between the two goes through this point, or whatever he says. His explanation didn't make sense, but he implied that, like, the only way to get between Andromeda and Milky Way was to go through Star One.
I thought he was just saying that since that's the quickest route, that's what people because it would take so long to get from one to the other, that's basically what you would have to. And I think they actually mentioned this because he says, like, if it were even possible for a single generation to go to the Andromeda Galaxy,
mm-hmm.
then they would want to go, through this way because it's quicker or something.
But later on, Avon's like, well, maybe they invented the intergalactic drive, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't know. Avon's explanation, like, the way he worded it, just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
But it's okay. I mean, it wasn't.
I just bought into it for the sake of the story.
Yeah, but anyway, someone else, and I think it's Villa, also says that the mines were either placed there as a precautionary measure, or, and I'm forgetting what they say, but like they possibly had contact with someone,
on the other
side, and they placed those as a precautionary measure. And I think Orak actually examines the situation later, or like hacks into some computer where he gets information. And I think this is a bit later,
mm-hmm.
where he says that they weren't just placed there as a precautionary measure, or like you wouldn't necessarily just place them there unless
there was something.
I'm butchering there. Like what this conversation actually is. I don't really remember the specifics of it, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. So Blake lands.
Well, there's this weird conversation between Blake and Avon, where Avon says that once this is all over, he's going to take the Liberator.
Oh yeah, Avon stages a coup of his own.
Well, Blake says fine, but if you remember back to,
yeah, but he says fine if everybody else goes along with it, and then Jenna says, sure. Why would we go along with it?
Right.
So
Jenna, as has been seen before, is more at least on board with Blake than most of the other crew members are. But also, if you remember back to, I think it was Pressure Point, where they had this discussion, and kind of the same discussion where Avon reveals that he wants the Liberator, and Blake is basically just like, over my dead body.
Yeah. Well, I guess Blake just wants to destroy the Federation. Avon's like, I want to be free. And Kelly's like, you are free. You can leave whenever you want. And he's like, no, I want to be free of this, of him. He points to Blake. And Blake's like, you can go if you want. And then Avon's like, I want the Liberator. We can destroy Star One. I'm dropping you off at Earth and I'm taking the Liberator. And Blake's like, yeah, if everybody else agrees, sure, why not? Maybe because Blake knows nobody else is going to agree to that. Oh, yeah. Jenna's like, when did you become a leader? And then Avon like just dodges the question and starts talking about Blake more. And then Blake just really casually goes, are you going to answer her question? And that's when he says the whole thing about wanting to be free.
Right. So anyway, Blake teleports down. And we get some establishing stuff on the Star One base. Or at least one of the Star One bases.
We can go back. We can kind of read this conversation with Avon, Chris Boucher, and Paul Darrow going, I want Paul Darrow to be the main star of the show.
Wow.
Okay, let's be honest. Chris Boucher clearly wrote it so that Avon kills Travis at the end. Spoilers.
Yeah, and I do wish Blake killed Travis, both because of their rivalry and also because of what's going to happen in Series 3.
It wouldn't have even been that hard because Blake does shoot Travis.
Yep. They could have just had him fall in with on that shot. But then instead Avon comes in and saves him.
I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's what makes me think that Chris Boucher wrote it.
He came in and rewrote it.
Because, Chris Boucher wrote this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because Travis could have easily just died right there. He could have just fallen, but then he gets back up, and then Avon shoots him as well, and then he falls and dies.
Yeah, I wonder what Terry Nation, thought of this, because Terry Nation, again, I'm hesitant to ever say that in terms of a television show, one person created a character, because there's things like writers, directors, even like costume actors, even costume designers who go into the creation of of a character. Mm-hmm. But Terry Nation conceived Travis, right? Travis was originally meant to be in episode 1. Mm-hmm. Which is all Terry Nation basically. So I wonder how Terry Nation felt, and I wonder if he made any comment about not having Travis be killed by Blake.
We can look it up for next week, maybe.
Look it up.
Because I am curious to know if there was any thinking behind specifically having Avon kill Travis rather than Blake. Because Travis has really been Blake's enemy, the Moriarty to Blake's Sherlock.
Well, we can discuss this more next week, I think, when it'll become more apparent. The next episode's called Aftermath, and I think it'll become more apparent what the aftermath of this is next episode.
I mean, yes, but I would argue that at this point they don't know what the aftermath is going to be right now when they've wrote and filmed
I think
this episode.
They do. I think they do.
You think they do?
Based on some very specific things that I know about the making of Series 2.
Some very specific spoilers that you know.
Yeah, I think they absolutely know what the aftermath is going to be.
So, before Blake beams down, actually, we get Servalan's apparent military coup.
But it's not led by her. She wants to capitalize on it, but it's going on elsewhere. I
think it is led by her. Because Durkin comes in, and Durkin's like, hey, I want to leave, and Servalan's like, no. And he's like, but the Federation wants me. And Servalan says, as of right now, Space Command no longer recognizes the sovereignty of the Federation.
Yeah, the reason why I thought this was going on elsewhere is there's a line from her at the end where she's like, I won't be the president. I'm not going to become the president of a...
Yeah, but she's like basically president already, because as soon as Durkin's leaving, in this scene, he turns to her and says, may I be the first to offer my congratulations, Madame President.
Yeah, all right, but I don't know. I feel like maybe that's just the chain of command getting so foobarred that she's next in line, or that she's going to step into power or something. I'm not honestly sure who's right here, but anyway, this is actually also really weirdly done, because it's really understated. Yeah. They never actually say that it's a coup, which I guess is just their politician talk or whatever.
Yeah, well, I think it's supposed to be going on in the background of all of this. I think it's not. Probably become more of a main thing next season, I suspect.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Servalan explains to Durkin about this lady, Lorna?
I forget her name. Started with an L.
Lorena. Right, Lorena, because I thought it was Irina. Lorena. And Lorena basically, Durkin had a thing with her of some sort, and she's on
Really? I
Star
thought he
One.
just was her. I don't remember actually what it
It's
what it
implied.
was.
He like denies knowing her, and Silverland's like, yeah, right. I know you knew her. You were both at the same place, and it's like implied that he had something going on with her, and Silverland's like leveraging this to try and get Durkin to figure out where Star One is. Because she stayed on Star One. Silverland reveals that while no one knows where Star One is, some people stayed on Star One to make sure that it was going to be maintained. And then I wrote a note down. I was like, wait, but what happens when they die? Who's going to maintain Star One when they die?
I was under the impression that it was sort of a lifelong deal, right? Like you agree to work on Star One and you're never coming back.
No, yeah, I know that. What I'm saying is what happens when they die, who maintains Star One? Because no one knows where it is. So when they die, then what?
I don't know, maybe someone higher up in the Federation knew where it was somehow and just wasn't leaking that information.
Silverland
doesn't know where it is.
Silverland is literally Supreme Commander of Space Command. If she doesn't know, then no one in Space Command knows.
Well, I mean, Space Command and the Federation are... Space Command, I don't know what like Space Command is in terms of, is it like an entity within the Federation? Is it separate from the Federation?
Well, I mean,
this
I always
episode
thought it
sort
was-
of implies that it's a separate thing.
I always thought it was like Star Trek, like Starfleet was like the military or the spacefaring branch of the Federation. The Federation was the government, and then Starfleet was.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So
But you know, I always thought it was like Star Trek. Starfleet was run by the Federation, or was at least under the umbrella of the Federation.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so I think Space Command in this episode breaks away and basically does the military coup, takes over.
Maybe someone knows, and maybe they're not leaking that they know.
Maybe, but they wiped everyone's minds. So
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Who knows?
anyway, apparently they like
The fool obviously knew.
Yeah, but the fool knew because Lurgan knew, and Lurgan knew because he was wiping people's minds.
Yeah, you never know how that information gets passed down.
Damn, you're right. There's so many leaks you can't even plug them all. Better just to kill everyone.
Yeah, it's like that old saying. It's like that old saying: if you want to keep a secret, make sure only one person knows about it. Or
three
whatever.
Three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead. I think.
Right. Anyway, Lorena is the only one
Acting
at Star
normally.
One who, is acting normally. And she calls everyone else out on their shenanigans, having, like, tampered with the computer systems and whatever. And they're like, we didn't want to have to kill you, Lorena, but now we do have to kill you. And she pulls a gun on one of them and manages to escape.
Right.
And there's, like, a hide-and-seek match between them in the base, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then she hides in a room and she finds everyone else on the starbase, Star One, but they're dead. They're strung up.
She
like
finds the same
cows
people.
and butchers.
Yeah.
Store.
Yep. They're the same people she was working with, but they've been dead for a while.
I didn't realize they were the same people till later when she explained it to Avon. I didn't realize they were the same people.
Yeah, because I recognized the old guy.
Yeah, I didn't
Pretty easily.
recognize him at first. When she explained it, I was like, oh, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, but that's all we get of that sort of plot thread for a while.
No, but that explains why all the people are like outside when Blake and Callie and Avon land, because they're outside and they capture Blake and Callie. And
Yeah, they're
when
looking.
Blake and Callie get inside, they like see them go inside and capture them.
Yeah,
I don't know if they
they're-
see him go inside, but they capture him.
They're looking for Lorena because they think she went outside.
Yeah. So then Callie uses her telepathy to tell Avon that it's a trap, and that's all she uses it for.
Yep. They think that Blake is Travis.
For some reason.
Well, because they knew Travis was coming.
I was going to say for some reason, but these are aliens from another galaxy, spoilers, so they wouldn't know what Travis looks like.
Well, they do kind of know what he looks like because they go, "What about your eye patch?" Or like they go, "Which arm is fake?" And Blake is like, "This one." They go, "What about your eye patch?" And I
We don't
forget-
see how Blake brushes off the eye patch thing because it cuts away and then it cuts back and they've just accepted that he's
really?
Travis.
I
So I
don't
imagine he came up with some cunning explanation about how he got his eyes fixed.
I mean, Travis's whole reason for having an eye patch is because he wants it as like a battle scar.
Yeah,
So-
but they don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know that. So Blake could just be like, "I want it as a battle scar. I wanted it as a battle scar, and now I didn't
don't.
want it anymore." So, yeah. But you sort of get more info about what's going on. So these are aliens from beyond the Milky Way
They're
galaxy,
from
I
the
guess.
Andromeda galaxy. Yeah, because on the ship,
or-
Villa and Jenna, they have Aurak man the teleporter, and then they have Aurak look up information on this satellite field. And Aurak basically explains that there's twofold purpose. The satellites are like detectors to detect ships approaching, but they also can destroy ships with like antimatter blasts. So they're like a combination minefield / detection grid.
Right, and Villa tries to brush it. They actually see some ships approaching the area.
Aurak brushes it aside. He's like, there's nothing to be worried about. And then later on, Villa's like, this is your fault, you hunk of junk. You told us we had nothing to worry about.
Villa's like, it's just a swarm of asteroid.
Well, that's later when the whole swarm shows up. But like when they first detect the field, Aurak is like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, the field will keep anybody out. And then later on, when the ships are actually approaching, and Jenna sends the message to Servalan, we'll just explain this now, but Jenna sends a message to Servalan through the strategy computers in Federation High Command, basically telling them to send every available ship here because there's an invasion coming from Andromeda. And Aurak's like, I wasn't built for this. And Phil's like, just do it, you hunk of junk. We're in this mess because of you, because you told us we had nothing to worry about, and look at all those ships approaching. But yeah, he tries to brush it aside as asteroids first, Villa, when they show up in this scene. Because Jenna's like, look, here they come. And Villa's like, it could be asteroids. Really big asteroids that are moving really fast. Maybe. And they like stop right at the edge of the field. And then Villa's like, okay, maybe not.
Anyway, Blake is setting some charges. Literally just going to blow up Star One, which was their plan all along, but you got to, we'll get to when Blake is like lying, almost dying on the floor later. But so they're setting charges. I think Callie sets a few as well.
So Avon gets into the base.
Avon sees someone in a cloak walking, towards the base, and it's Travis just decked out in a Jawa cosplay.
Well, because Villa and Jenna
they're called
see
the
the ship
Jawas,
land.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They see the ship land, and they think maybe it's an advanced scout force from the other galaxy. It's Travis, but...
And Avon makes the mistake of, bringing Travis into the base.
Well, no, because Travis implies that he's there because they're expecting him, so Avon plans to use Travis to get...
Right, but he doesn't know that Blake is already posing as Travis, which is why it's a massive mistake to do that.
Yeah, but there's no way he could have known.
No, yeah, there's not. But
unless Callie communicated it to him telepathically, but she didn't, so thanks, Callie. You can tell him it's a trap, but you won't tell him that Blake's pretending to be Travis.
Callie could just literally feed everything that's going on to Avon, and even Jenna and Villa, because her telepathy works over huge distances, as we saw in Shadow.
Yeah, but she doesn't.
Oh, God. What if... we've touched on this before, but, Callie could easily be working behind the scenes against them, throughout all of this.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any, fanfics out there about that.
100%.
They're, rewrites all of Blake 7 to have Callie be, a villain, working behind the scenes with her telepathy.
Absolutely, there is. There has to be.
I don't know. There's not as much Blake 7 fanfiction as you would think.
Well, then you can write it.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be really complicated.
Yeah. But, you've written fan fiction before. It'd be better than that, probably.
Sure.
Throwback to Lava Pirates.
Look, I wrote Lava Pirates in such a tongue-in-cheek style to hide how, badly it was done. So... Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, which you almost definitely don't, dear listener. I wrote a Doctor Who fan fiction called Lava Pirates.
You could listen to me read it over on the Trust Your Doctor feed. You can find the link on our website.
Oh, God. Now that's out there to our Blake 7 listeners and, knowledge. But whatever.
I completely annihilated my throat for that recording, so...
Has the best Doctor Who villain of all time as sort of the main character. You can guess who that is.
All of our fans are thinking, what, the Master? The Rani? You're not even close, dude. You're 10 years off. So, Travis escapes because Lorena...
distracts
Avon opens a room and Lorena attacks him from behind. And so Travis throws his cloak on top of the two of them and then he runs off. And Avon's like, damn. And then he sees all the people in the room and Lorena's like, yeah, but they're trying to kill me. And he's like, yeah, but they're dead. And she's like, no, but they're in here. But they're also out there trying to kill me.
And Avon's like, I understand exactly what's going on now. Well, except he actually does.
Well, so because one of them runs up and then we see, this was kind of terrifying, I'll be honest. Avon shoots him and we see
Yeah, there's blood
splatter
everywhere.
all over the walls. And I'm like, we've never seen blood splatter when like they shoot someone from the liberated guns, and they're like, God, this is getting violent.
Yeah, this was really strange because this is the first time the liberator guns have caused that much damage. Normally you just see them shoot someone and it looks like they just fall down with no physical harm done to them.
Well, also in this story, we get the liberator gun sound effect sounds like a cap gun or like an actual like pistol.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Like when Avon kills Travis, it sounds just like a pistol shot.
Well, Chris Boucher and Paul Darrow were big Western fans.
Maybe Avon modded his liberator gun to sound like a pistol. Because he holds it like a 6-shooter in the story too.
Yeah, he always does that. It's nothing new or out of the ordinary. And like we mentioned before, once you notice that he holds it like that, there's no unnoticing it.
Unfortunately, never unsee that. Yeah, so they go to investigate this dude that Avon just shot, and he like transforms into like
what looks like a pile of rotting flesh.
Yeah, like a green blob.
Yep.
And Avon's like, that's kind of weird. Doesn't really make any other comment about it though.
Lorena says that they're the enemy. She basically says that they're the enemy, and Avon's like, good. They'd be really hard to love if they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently all the people on the Star One were like, I guess kind of like how they hypnotized Blake into that fake story and like came back and voiced from the past. Apparently the hypnotherapists or hypnopsychologists, they like programmed all the people on Star One where if they like tried to harm Star One or tried to contact anybody off of Star One or tried to even get off of Star One, they would just go insane. Which is why Lorena is like really weirded out by the fact that they're like actively sabotaging their systems without going insane, which is how she kind of figured out that like they're not her friends.
I didn't think it was
or part of how she figured that out.
I think you're right about that. I didn't think it was going insane. I thought it was just they were like unable to. Well,
Sutherland, when she explains it to Durkin, says if they tried, they would just go completely insane.
All right.
And Durkin's like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, and Sutherland's like, "The hypnopsychologist has spent a lot of time convincing my highest officers of the fact." So,
sure. Anyway, Travis, I think, appears before the...
Travis does what he should have done in every one of his other appearances. He just walks into the room and shoots Blake in the back.
Yep. Oh, God, and it really works. Blake is down for the count for the rest of this episode, pretty much. He comes to in a little bit.
He should be dead. Travis thinks he's dead.
Yeah, he's knocked out. He's slumped over in a corner.
Turns out Travis's gun arm isn't as effective as he thought it was, or he just completely misses because like Blake survives this point-blank shot from Travis's arm.
I think he shoots. He doesn't hit Blake like straight on in the heart or anything.
He hits him left side of the body.
Yeah, it's enough to knock him out.
Then the guy's like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm Travis." And the guy's like, "Oh, I see the eye patch." And he's like, "That guy's name was Blake." But then Avon busts in.
Well, Blake
starts gunning some fools down.
Well, and Blake shoots Travis. He sort of comes to for a second and shoots Travis, and Travis stumbles over. But then Avon is the one. Avon actually, shoots Travis basically point blank, and Travis falls like Emperor and Darth Maul style into the abyss.
Well, Darth Maul survives that fall.
Yeah, he does.
Canon confirmed.
Yep. He survived it in the old canon too, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
In both of them.
Mm-hmm. So,
but it looks cool. It's actually the image that the Blake 7 wiki uses for this episode. He falls into like this swirling green abyss with like lightning coming out of it.
And that's not a really weird cackling scream.
They never explain like what this thing is or what it's doing there. It's just this
got this
like
chasm.
Vortex.
They just got a chasm like in the control room.
It was cool though. It was done visually really well, and like I don't know, I just find that to be a fitting end for Travis. Him just falling like hundreds or dozens. of feet.
It's like really Sherlock, because Moriarty dies when Sherlock throws him off of a waterfall, and he falls down a long chasm and dies.
It's also very Star Wars, which is like as we were saying in the beginning of this episode, a pretty direct influence on Series 2 at least.
I mean, yes, but the only Star Wars that's out at this point is New Hope, and that doesn't happen in New Hope.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
oh yeah,
in some ways, it could be that Star Wars is just very Blake 7.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it is like, very Sherlock. I mean, Travis was clearly designed to be the Moriarty to Blake's Sherlock, and this end is like straight out of what is that story called now? I think it's called The Final Problem, where Moriarty and at first Moriarty and Sherlock go tumbling off the waterfall, but then Sherlock later reveals in the dumbest way possible that he escaped by putting his shoes on backwards and walking in his footsteps away from the falls. But yeah,
never read that one.
I mean, that's like Conan Doyle only explains how Sherlock survived because if he didn't, people would be like, "How did Sherlock survive?"
Well, he also tried to make it very silly, regardless of whether you think that's dumb or not. Him putting his shoes on backwards and walking backwards or whatever. I think Conan Doyle's opinion on it was like he wanted to make it as stupid as stupid as he could, like at least in terms of what he thought was stupid. Because he didn't want to bring Sherlock back. There was so much like fan outcry that he was forced to, or
it's because all of his other works were selling really poorly, and he realized if he wanted to make money, he was going to have to bring Sherlock back because he realized people want Sherlock,
and still do apparently.
He's a good character, I think.
I don't know.
I think he is. In the original books, he is for sure. In the original stories.
I don't know.
I think so.
Watson's
definitely a better character.
I've read the 2 novels and like a bunch of the other ones, but
there's 3 novels.
Well, there's 2 like that originally. There's the 2 original ones, and there's a bunch of short stories, and there's like another novel somewhere in there. I read the like original 2.
Yeah, there's the Sign of 4. There's
the 2 original novels are like not really mysteries though. They're more like thrillers, kind of.
Yeah, there's the Sign of 4.
I don't remember what they're called.
There's like the Valley of Death, I think it is. I don't remember what the second was called. And then there's Hound of the Baskervilles. So there's 3 novels.
Yeah, but I think he originally wrote 2, and then he wrote a bunch of the short stories, which are more famous. And then he wrote
the Hound
another
of the
novel.
Baskervilles he wrote after he killed off Sherlock, but before he brought him back. And Sherlock basically doesn't feature in Hound of the Baskervilles at all. Watson does all the investigating. Sherlock just shows up at the end to claim credit.
Why did he have to bring Sherlock back, though? Couldn't he just write more and be like, yeah, this was set before he died?
I guess because people didn't like the fact that Sherlock was dead. Well, so you have to remember that, like, when Sherlock... This is like a big digression.
Oh, well.
When Sherlock Holmes was being written and published, like, that was the serialized form of entertainment like TV is today. Like, Sherlock Holmes was published serialized month by month in the magazine.
Yeah, I mean...
So Sherlock being dead was, like, in terms of that meant it was done because it's a very serialized storytelling.
Well, I mean, Han's dead, and they brought him back for the Han Solo movie.
Yeah, but nowadays is more of an accepted, like, oh, you can go back and do things before. But, like, when you get the stories month to month, and then he dies, that's it. That's the end. Like
that. I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Think about TV. If they kill off a character on TV, they never go back and do episodes set before the character was killed off, right? They typically just move on, and then if they want the character to come back, they'll like. Somebody will have like a memory,
like his dad shows up,
or like
again.
his son shows up, or his cousin, or his version from another universe, or they like just retcon his death completely. They never go back and set episodes before he was dead.
But I mean, I don't know how common this is, but I know it's done where later seasons will be like set before another season.
I've never seen that done.
I have in
what?
anime.
Yeah, in anime.
But going back to like serialized stuff in like the 1800s and early 1900s, I see where you're coming from with that, and generally you're right, but that's not always the case. Like Tale of Two Cities, I know is one specific example, and I know there's actually a bunch more too, where they do go back in time. They have an entire story, and then it'll literally be in the narration, and now to go back to when this was occurring, here's this that's also occurring. So it's definitely something that's done.
I guess, but it's not like they ever killed off a character and then like, just kidding, we're going back to before the character was dead. Right?
Yeah, that's why I also see where you're coming from on that.
Like it's like in those cases, it's like a separate parallel story that's being told that takes place at the same time. It's never like they go back. It's never like Ocean's 11 where they go back and they reveal the big heist to you, and they reveal all these things that happened.
No, they do go back. It's not like a simultaneous thing. They do like, and again, I'm referring to Tale of Two Cities because that's the one I remember the best. But they do go back in time in that.
I guess. But I don't know. I think the point was that nobody would have accepted that for Sherlock anyway. It was also like people considered Sherlock like an actual person. So it was like if he's dead, he's dead. Like they published an obituary for Sherlock Holmes. So,
yeah, that's because this is also again
worship.
a massive digression. No, like a massive digression, and this is something I really have a problem with, where people, and this started with like individualism in text, but like people, I think, maybe started with Rousseau or something, but like people don't see text as like a textual event anymore. They see it as like something real, and like there's always that rhetoric too, like, oh, it's not realistic, and what people are saying when they say it's not realistic is they're saying it's bad. Which I don't know if I like. Because like you read stuff from before like Rousseau, I guess, before like the mid-1700s, and there's not this worship, or there's not this like desire for things in a text to like be really realistic and stuff like that. And there's an acknowledgement also that it's a text, and like postmodernism, as is inspired by post-structuralism, is definitely bringing that back a lot. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I have problems with that too, also.
Oh boy. Anyway.
I have problems with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway, what were we even talking about?
Well, I just wanted to mention that Travis falling
vortex.
down the vortex was like straight out of Sherlock Holmes. It's Sherlock kills his nemesis by throwing him off a cliff, basically. Except in this case, Avon kills him. So, what's up with that? Blake is like, we can't destroy Star One. Turns out there's aliens invading, and if we destroy Star One, they'll just get straight through.
Yeah. I mean, would you have, just to dwell on this for another minute, would you have preferred if Blake killed Travis? Because I think I would have.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, closure is a weird word to use here, but it would have brought closure, I think, to the Blake and Travis story. Because the whole thing between Blake and Travis was that they were getting more and more cavalier and reckless in their behavior, and Travis was getting more and more set on killing Blake. Like, his only purpose in life was to kill Blake.
And that just culminates in him, like, just running into the room and shooting Blake first thing he does.
Which is what he should have done a season ago, but anyway. And then, like, the ending is that Avon is the one who ends it all. Like, I don't know. It just feels...
Thanks, Chris.
It feels like Avon has butted into something that wasn't his business, almost. I mean, then again, it kind of plays into Avon's character. He just wants to be free of this whole thing, and he wants to be free of Blake, so he's not going to give Blake any more chances to let Travis get away. He's just like, I'm just going to take matters into my own hands. I
think there's definitely going to be more to say about this next week, but there's also... This is sort of a team effort from Blake and Avon, too, is one way to think about it, because Travis staggers because Blake shot him, and that gives Avon the opportunity to run in and shoot him, and he falls over.
Yeah. Well,
and Blake and Avon somewhat reconcile at the end of this.
When Blake shoots him, he actually falls over on the floor, and then when they're tending to Blake, Blake says, "Is Travis dead?" And then Avon turns around to check, and Travis is standing there, and then he shoots him.
Yeah, that's not true then. You're right about that.
So that's why I feel like when Blake shot him, he could have just stumbled into the chasm and died.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably would have preferred that as well. But oh well. Avon killing him is all right with me as well.
It's fine. It's just...
Not as fine as it could be.
Yeah, just puts more of the focus on Avon than Blake. And especially when the story has been building up so much to this massive confrontation between these two titans, almost, so to speak. To have it end with Avon just coming in and being like, "What's up, my dudes? It's Avon, Trickster God
Avon.
Loki, Trickster God Kerr Avon coming to mess with your stuff." I don't know. Anyway, they have to go take all the charges off. So Avon and Callie have this mad dash to remember where they put all the charges. And then Blake reveals that he put an extra charge in one of the rooms.
Right. Which we actually saw him putting that on there when he was talking to the leader guy.
So Lorena goes to get it, and then she gets cornered by all the other people, but then the charge blows up in her hand and kills them all.
Yep. And
we see this awesome explosion when Callie chucks all the other charges off this cliff.
Right, they're really rushing to get these things out, Callie and Avon, that is.
So she runs up the side of the rock quarry that this is set in.
Yeah, and, they're small charges, so you don't think they're going to do that much damage, enough to destroy Star One beyond repair, but you don't think they're going to cause that huge of an explosion. But you can really see why they're rushing, because she chucks them off the side of the cliff, and it's this massive, huge explosion. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Basically the best explosion on Blake 7 so far. We had a lot of explosions in this episode because we also had the ships blow up when they crashed into each other.
Yeah, well, meanwhile, out in space, Jenna and Villa are picking up on the scanners, the ships coming from outside of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And there's this, you get a couple shots of it. There's this huge fleet, and I really like this. All the ships looked different from one another. One to the next one, no two looked the same.
Well, I guess it's supposed to be like there's a coalition of some sort.
That's what I thought
coming
as well.
through on the other side.
Like this thing that's much larger than the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
This alliance of like multiple different alien species, alien races.
Right.
I mean, that's not confirmed, so.
Well, probably not until next week. Although, if I'm being honest, I'm imagining them skipping ahead 6 months and they're like, man, that battle was really great, guys.
Can't believe we survived that. That was intense.
Can't believe we survived that battle. Or they'll do like what I'm just thinking what NCIS did the one season, like one of the team members gets captured by this terrorist cell and they start the next season, like they jump ahead 6 months and one of the other team members has been captured by the same terrorist cell and they tell the whole story of the past 6 months in flashbacks by the guy getting interrogated. He's like, so here's what happened over the past 6 months.
I don't know. I don't know how that's achieved because I haven't watched it, obviously, but like I tend to like stuff like that where you go, into the next season or whatever. And I think video games actually do this more than TV or movies ever do. But like you go into the next one and it's something totally different, and then like it's slowly revealed that it's actually related to what went on in the
actually worked out pretty
one.
well in NCIS because there's this double cliffhanger because the previous season ends with this cliffhanger that Ziva's been captured by these terrorists, and then the next season you see the same interrogation room and there's someone with a bag over their head in the first scene, and you think they're gonna like take the bag off and be Ziva, and they take the bag off and it's not Ziva, it's the other member of the team. You're like, well, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I tend to like stuff like that.
They actually achieved it pretty well there. I don't know if Blake 7 would achieve it nearly as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then
they didn't even try in between series A and B, so
Avon, Callie, and
not that you have to try, but
they kind of just cut to them on the ship, and Avon's like, we gotta fight them. And then Jenna and Callie are like, we could just leave. You're not Blake. You don't have to like stand up for the Federation. And Avon's like, no, we have to. Until the Federation gets you, we have to try hold them off.
Someone, I think it's Callie, says why, and he's like, why not?
And Blake stumbles. That's the word I'm looking for. Staggers is actually the other word I was also looking for. Onto the bridge. And Avon's like, what, don't you trust me? And Blake's like, okay, I'll just go back to the medical bay. And by the way, Avon, I've always trusted you. And Avon has this weird look on his face like he doesn't believe Blake, but he wants to believe Blake. And also a look of like, man, if he actually trusted me now, I feel kind of shitty for all the things I did to him.
This is a far cry. Blake and Avon have honestly switched positions totally from like Spacefall
the way back.
Well, Avon wasn't in Spacefall, but the way back, where like Avon is
no, Avon was in Spacefall. The way back was the first episode. You right?
Oh yeah, all right. Well, you know what I meant, but
yeah.
Avon is introduced as like this sort of, I don't know, robotic guy, whereas Blake is like this guy you can like really rally behind. He has like this cause or whatever. And like now, and I can see why Blake 7 in character said this on their podcast, that Avon is like, a character that the audience can like really sympathize with and stuff like that. And back when I listened to them first say that, I didn't get it. I didn't agree. Mm-hmm. But like now that situation's almost completely reversed, where Blake is kind of this manipulative guy and Avon is like the one who like kind of really wants to believe that Blake always trusted him.
I mean, it's definitely like Blake kind of pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, so to speak. And then as, once Gan died, everybody started realizing like Blake actually doesn't really know what he's doing. And that Blake actually like is really just driven by his hatred of the Federation. He's not actually like really thinking any of this through. They all just follow him because like, I guess none of them have anywhere else to go. And it's better than being dead, I suppose. But like by the end of the season, everyone kind of realizes that Avon and Villa, I guess, who is always the voice of reason, like actually have it right. Like maybe we shouldn't be following Blake to the literal end of the world. Like this is the end of the galaxy here. This is the edge of the galaxy.
Yep. There's also, I mean, Blake, the reason why they try and take off the charges is because they're not going to be able to get out of the base in time. At least Blake won't.
But
like,
that also, but Blake tells them, like, if we destroy Star One, there's no defense for the aliens that are invading.
Right. So in some ways, he still wants, like, control.
I mean, I guess.
Potentially.
It's the fear of the unknown versus the fear of the known, really. Blake knows the Federation. Blake doesn't know the enemies on the other side. So
sure,
if he knows the Federation, he knows how to fight the Federation. He has no idea what's coming through the gap, basically.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that. And there's also this idea, possibly, that, you know, not destroying it is going to leave options open to him.
I mean, yeah, and like also destroying it leaves a power vacuum as well.
Which there already seems to be a power vacuum emerging that's also seems to be like quickly filling with like Servalan and stuff like that.
Servalan believes the message they get from the Liberator. Just straight up. She just straight believes it. As soon as she gets it, she says, all right, divert all ships to that location. And they're like, what, you believe it? And she's like, yes, I do.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
And there's this cool little scene where they're all like reporting into Servalan. The one guy's like, Attack Squad Delta or whatever it is, going to arrive 3 hours. And the other one's like, Attack Squad Charlie arriving 2.5 hours. So kind of interesting.
Okay.
It's you know, when you really think about it, the final scene is like really tropey. It's like it's basically the Alamo. It's legitimately the Alamo. They're basically just trying to hold out till the reinforcements arrive.
Well,
rip the people at the Alamo. Nobody survived the Alamo.
I think, all right, this is also another major problem I have. Oh God! But when you say tropes, I think you mean cliche.
Yeah.
Because tropes, every story has tropes. Tropes are just like the components of a story. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. People use that word wrong all the time. And that's also why I massively hate, like, I guess I'll say I hate TV tropes. Garbage website. And the community there is also complete garbage.
Well, I don't go to the community. I just go there for the fun tropes.
Yeah, but they're not actually tropes.
Some of them are tropes. Not all of
them. What they're calling tropes are, I mean, the website, it should be called TV cliches, not TV tropes.
But TV tropes rolls off the tongue better.
A cliche is always a trope, but a trope isn't always a cliche. TV tropes does sound better, though.
Yeah, exactly. Point proven. Yeah, but anyway, it's like really cliche. Like I said, it's the Alamo. It's been done in like every big war series, TV show. They do it on NCIS. They do it on Law and Order sometimes, you know. It's the small, tiny group is facing off against a much larger group. They're being outnumbered. They did it on Person of Interest even. And they're just trying to hold out till reinforcements arrive, basically. I mean, like I said, even historically, it's basically the Alamo. Nobody survived the Alamo. I suspect people are going to survive this battle.
Because there's still 2 more seasons to get through.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a TV show.
But it ends on Avon saying fire and pressing a button.
It ends on the shot of him pushing the button, which I thought was dumb. I thought they could have just ended it on him saying fire and then just end there.
Oh, I don't care one way or the other.
Well, because they had this cheesy freeze frame effect on him pushing the button. Which, whatever, it's Blake 7.
I liked it. I thought it was a better season. Well, I don't know if actually I would say it was better than
I don't think
Orak.
it was better.
Than Orak? I think the episode as a whole was better than Orak.
That's what I was going to say. I think the episode as a whole is better. I think this cliffhanger is not better.
I do think it's better because Orak is just like, wait, there's something on the scanner, and then they blow up. Whereas this, there's like a known threat coming at them, and it's something that they wouldn't be able to really take on. You know they're going to their deaths.
But I prefer the mystery of Orak, where Orak is like, Orak shows them the Liberator blowing up, and they're like, we're going to blow up soon, and that's how it ends. Like, I prefer the mystery of like what's going to happen to the Liberator, how are they going to get out of that? Whereas this one, it's like they're fighting off against this big force. You can kind of already predict that either
they're going to cheese their way out of it somehow.
Yeah, they're going to cheese their way out of it. One, there's like 3 possible options that could happen here, like 3 distinct possibilities. 1, they cheese their way out of it. 2, they just leave. They just run away. Or 3, the Federation shows up and saves them. Right? Those are kind of the 3 options here.
Or they do something else on the next episode and never bring it up.
Redemption.
That's like the worst of the 4 options.
But I just prefer the mystery because I think a season finale should have some sort of mystery to bring you back in, right?
Sure, this is kind of like, the classic Doctor Who ending where it's like the Doctor's going to die. How's he going to get out of it?
Exactly.
But they don't do it like every single week on Blake 7, which is why I'm more okay with it here. I also think that, these ships are a massive threat, which is why I like it a little bit more than I tend to do.
Yeah, but it always almost feels like, I don't know this, I could skip Aftermath and just start next season and I'd be okay. I could just piece together how they get out of it. Whereas like after Aurak, I felt like if I didn't watch Redemption, I wouldn't know how they were going to get out of it.
Well, we'll have to see what happens, I guess.
I
really liked this episode. One of the best in a while.
One of the best in a while.
Maybe that brings us into our ratings. So do you want to, this is the last time we're going to be doing ratings because we do we're trying to do something different, at the end of each episode for every different season of Blake 7. So this time was ratings.
So there's something new and fun next week for Series C.
So, I've gone first most of the time. So in a break from tradition, why don't you go first for this last one?
All right, I'll take the honors for the final ranking, I guess.
All right.
So my ranking is the greatest shot in all of Blake 7, which is in this episode.
Jenna's eyes?
No. It's in this episode. There's a shot of the Liberator flying past the Star 1, and everything is like the planet and the star is kind of tinted orange, and the Liberator itself is tinted orange from the light from the star, and it flies past. And I even made a note. I wrote, "Oh, wow, that's cool." I also apparently
all right.
I also apparently wrote blood WTF for later on when the blood happens when Avon shoots the guy. But
yeah,
anyway,
I noticed that too.
This shot was, I think, just basically the epitome of good shots. It had everything that I wanted. It was really nice to look at. It was fun. It was fun. It was well put together. It was a really good shot of the Liberator model, which is really good. And like this episode, just really good. Really enjoyable, really good to look at.
Yeah.
And fun.
Yep. I thought this episode was really good as well, so I rated a 5 out of 5.
Anyway, somehow I knew you were going to rank it like that for this episode.
Probably because I just thought of that like 40 minutes ago. So.
5 out of 5. Yeah, well, I kind of feel like we're going to have more to say on this episode next week when we see how it's resolved, which I think is the same thing we did with Aurak. I think a lot of the stuff we wanted to say about Aurak, we kind of held over until we watched Redemption.
Yep.
Because it is kind of like, what's the concluding part going to be?
So it's literally called Aftermath.
I have some things that I want to say about the Federation, but I'm going to also hold them off till next week because I want to see what happens first with how they resolve this and what happens with the invasion force. And yeah, so Travis is dead. The show is basically completely changed now.
Yeah, I knew Travis was going to die for quite a while. I think I spoiled that near the beginning of Series B, I mean.
Yeah, it's about when I spoiled it when I found out that Brian Croucher took over the role because Brian Croucher was only credited for Series B as Travis, so I figured he was going to die probably at the end of the season. And then I think about halfway through the season, it was like, oh yeah, Travis dies in Star 1. And I'm like, damn it. But I knew he didn't make it out of Series B.
I wonder if, like, back in the day, people thought he was dead here. Because you see him fall into this vortex, not. Like, I don't know, it's not, like, totally confirmed that he dies.
I mean, Avon straight up says, yeah, he's dead now. Which I guess is supposed to be, like, to put it to rest, he's dead. I am almost certain they'll bring up Travis in name again at some point next season to confirm that he's dead.
Probably, yeah.
So, I mean, but I can just imagine watching this episode and then meeting up with your buddies like at the bar and like, do you really think Travis is dead? I don't think Travis is dead.
Placing your bets for the next season?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, but people do place bets on TV shows. Like before they announced who the 13th Doctor was going to be, there was a lot of places accepting bets for like what actor or actress you thought was going to take over the role. And that's why a lot of people thought it was going to be Chris Marshall because the bookies were like, yeah, Chris Marshall, it's going to be Chris Marshall. Everybody's placing bets on Chris Marshall. And then it was like, oh, it's Jodie Whittaker. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah, but this, I don't know too much about this, so I probably shouldn't even bring it up, but it's not like actual probability where like the more people who think that it's going to happen, like the more likely it is to happen or something like that. I don't really know much about
it was like a fallacy because the more people who bet a certain way, then the odds are going to go up because then they have to pay you out less if it turns out to be true. So, I mean, this is how it works with golf betting anyway. The more people who bet on it, they basically raise the odds because more people think that they're going to win, but that doesn't increase the probability of it being true. It just changes the odds.
Huh. Okay, yeah.
So everyone was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
the
I'm
odds are like 5-1. It's going to be Chris Marshall," but the odds are not like a measure of probability. At least in this case, the odds are not a measure of probability. It's because so many people bet on it. The odds went like way.
Yeah, you can really like use that to mess with people. Like the odds are 5-1, bet this way, and then like they get screwed over because of that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
but we don't have to bet. We know he's dead. Yeah. That's what happens when you watch a show 40 years later.
We got 2 emails this week, both of them from Sergeant Drano. Both, I think, within like a couple hours of each other after we had already recorded the bumper for the Keeper episode. So, one of these emails is about the Keeper, which was last week, the email should have gone in that episode, but we weren't able to get into that episode. And there's also an email about Star One. So we're just going to go over both of them in this episode right now, I think. So Keeper episode's rather short. Hey guys, I'll be interested to hear what you think of this one. It's what I would term the crap before the storm. I found this episode to be mostly a dull and tedious affair as Jenna and Villa get captured by a Ren fair. Avon thinks he got Travis, but did any of us believe that for even a second? No, because like we said, you smash cut straight to Travis talking with Gola, I think. The best thing about this episode might be Travis's flip phone, which is amazing, goes well with his high belt.
I don't remember that, actually.
I don't remember it either. In my opinion, this episode isn't even so bad. It's good. It's just there. Looking forward to the next one, though. Sergeant Drano, Station 7, the door. I don't really have much to say on the Keeper since our episode's already gone out on that, so our thoughts are already out there.
I mean, we obviously liked it.
Yeah, we liked it. We liked a lot of the things they did with the whole like space Viking culture thing that was going on.
Yeah, I think maybe looking back, maybe we liked the potential of it more than what it actually delivered.
Potentially.
Maybe going back and watching it again, it wouldn't be as good of an episode.
Maybe. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think I just liked Keeper on its own, in my opinion.
I liked how, to me, it was a sort of a throwback to Series A. It felt more like a Series A episode, which I appreciated, especially since now that we've already started watching Series C by the time we're recording this, and especially seeing the different direction Series C is going, I appreciated like sort of a Series A/B style episode right there at the end before the finale.
Right.
Or a Series A style episode, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree with that pretty much. The Star one is rather lengthy, so let's get into it. Hey guys, so we finally made it to Star 1. As you may recall, this is one of the ones I mentioned liking so much it was a runner-up for what episode I would join you for. Of course, it's most famous for the cliffhanger at the end. I don't think any of us will ever forget that moment where Blake stares into the camera and says, "Resistance is futile, number 1," and Avon responds with, "Mr. Restal, fire." Great stuff. That's a reference to The Best of Both Worlds from Star Trek The Next Generation, which I don't actually remember if I mentioned in this episode, in the Star 1 episode. But I remember that I wanted to mention it because, the cliffhanger at the end actually reminded me a lot of that one from Best of Both Worlds, because they both end with the second in command, quote unquote, of the ship taking command and ordering to fire against basically insurmountable odds. And even like the framing and the wording of everything is like really similar. So I wanted to mention it last week, and if I forgot to mention it, I'm mentioning it now. So thanks for bringing it up, Drano, and reminding me. But let's start at the beginning. I think there's a lesson to be learned from the first scene. Never trust smart cars, computers, never make mistakes, my ass. The drive from the crashing ship nukes Calor City, which is a location from the Doctor Who episode Robots of Death, and indicated that Doctor Who and Blake 7 share a universe. I didn't actually notice that at all.
Yeah, I did not notice that.
I think Chris Boucher's written some stuff set in Calor City that has characters from both Blake 7 and Doctor Who, so I think in expanded universe stuff, Chris Boucher's already linked the universes together. And Terry Nation wanted to use the Daleks. I think we mentioned that in this episode and got a hard no from the producers of the show on that aspect. So
yeah, if you couldn't tell, we're recording this response to this email after the rest of the episode.
Right.
So this is us from a week in the future compared to
week in the future.
What you just heard 5 minutes ago.
So if no one knows where Star 1 is at all, how did that tech crew get there? I think Servalan explains that they were put there when they built Star 1.
Right.
Pretty great Avon speech. Blake says, "You really do hate me, don't you? What do you guys think? Does Avon hate Blake?" No, I don't think so.
Nope.
We talk about this more next week for you guys, that Avon is definitely putting up a bit of a wall. And we've talked about it before. I think Avon just pretends not to care about everybody when really he does care about everybody, probably maybe even immensely.
I think by the end of Series B, he cares more about the rest of the crew than Blake even does.
Yeah. No, and I think by the end of Series B, a lot of his challenges are he wants to do the best for what the crew is doing, and he's realized that Blake has gone a little bit off the deep end, so he's trying to push Blake back towards a little bit more of a saner course of action. And I think maybe Blake is just so paranoid at that point that he interprets that as hate from Avon.
Again, maybe lending credence to my theory that we just see all the characters as Blake portrays them.
Maybe, but how does that theory hold up now that Blake's gone?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it can't hold up after Blake is gone. Probably. I don't know. I'd have to. I kind of forgot that theory like weeks ago. So.
Well, I guess we can talk about it more upcoming in Series C. Callie wonders if they're doing the right thing by destroying Star One. What do you guys think? In terms of the show, yeah, they have to destroy Star One because they've kind of overdone the Federation at this point. They got to put an end to it. In terms of, like, is it morally correct to destroy Star One? They haven't really shown us that the Federation is worthy of being completely wiped out.
Also,
like Blake wants to do.
You have to realize, too, like, if they don't destroy it, the aliens will. Like, the Andromedans are about to destroy it anyway.
And they do end up destroying it. Spoilers, they end up destroying it in the war that occurs.
The war of indeterminate length.
Is that what we're going to call it now? The first scene with Lorena and the rest of Star One crew was pretty well done. First time I saw it, wasn't sure if she was crazy or not at first. And Serverland is staging a coup. Cool callback to the Liberator's detector shield. Good use of Callie's telepathy.
Yeah, that thing you bring up with Lorena is actually pretty interesting because Blake 7 has done the whole paranoia shtick before, right? Where they try and make Blake believe that, you know, he just thought these things were true and that he actually did molest the children and stuff.
Yeah.
And again here, maybe like they try and make Lorena think that she's just crazy. And, you know, in every case, it's pretty much been, no, they weren't crazy. You're actually just manipulating them. But it would be interesting to see Blake 7 do something with an actually paranoid character.
Yeah. And I don't think we've gotten hints at it before. I mean, Travis was hinted to be pretty paranoid by the end of it. Like, he hated humanity. In this episode, he wants to just wipe humanity out. Nice to establish that while Aurak can work the teleport, he isn't as quick with it as a human operator. Helps explain why they don't just have Aurak operate the teleport all the time. Yeah, that actually is a good point. I remember asking why they don't have Aurak just operate the teleport all the time a couple of weeks ago when they had Aurak work the teleport. So that I think they could go to, I think it was in the one where they went down to Space City, which the name is escaping me right now.
Yeah, I forgot what that one's.
Gambit, you're right. Blake plays it pretty clever with the aliens, deducing that they think he's Travis. Brains, but no heart. Now talk or scream, Travis, the choice is yours. Such sweet, cold smack talk from Avon. And no silly monologuing from Travis. The instant he spots Blake, he shoots him without saying a word. I think we mentioned that. I think we were like, that's what Travis should have done like a season ago. Or Blake should have done a season ago. And Avon gets the Travis kill, flushing Travis number 2 down the antimatter toilet. Yeah, we had a long, lengthy discussion about that already, so I don't think we want to go into it any more than we already did.
No, I mean, it was cool, though.
I guess. It was a pretty fancy special effect they had. Jenna calls Serverland for help, and Serverland does not bullshit around. All in. Avon and Blake's final moments together before the battle. Avon keeping his word to hold off the alien fleet. All great stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Terry Nation originally wanted the invaders to be Daleks instead of Andromedans, but David Murray and Chris Boucher vetoed it. It might have also worked nicely to have the invaders be the system from Redemption. Maybe.
Could have worked. The system weren't even that far out, though. They weren't even as far as Star One.
The system were in the Milky Way. At least that was the implication. Especially since Avon says that the intergalactic drive hasn't been invented, but it must have if they're like trying to block a fleet from Andromeda from invading the Milky Way. The actual battle between the Liberator and the alien fleet is covered in much greater detail with the Blake 7 audio drama Warship recorded in 2013. And featuring most of the original cast returning to the roles. Might be interesting for you guys to cover it. Maybe.
We'll have to listen to that to find out how long the war was.
Yeah, maybe. We've been discussing whether or not we want to artificially extend the lifespan of Zenith by listening to the audios, and the jury's still out. The jury's still out. We're going to do the 40th anniversary audio for sure.
Yep.
Beyond that, we're not really sure. We might want to move on to some other podcast. All in all, a real cracking episode. IMO, one of the best of the series. It goes without saying, 7 out of 7. All the best, Sergeant Drano, Station 7 the door.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant Drano.
Yeah, thank you. Good thoughts in there. I think I agree with some of them, but I also disagree with...
I agree with most of it.
I agree with most of it. And
Still like the Keeper, though.
Yeah, me too. Still like the Keeper. And a lot of the things that you mentioned, we actually did touch upon in this episode, so I think that'll be interesting. especially the thing about Avon killing Travis. I remember a rather lengthy discussion about whether that was
pushing
whether
him
that
into a
worked
washing machine.
or whether it would have been better to have Blake kill Travis. Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit. So thank you for emailing us. Always looking forward to your emails, Mr. Sergeant Drano.
Mr. Sergeant. No, I want
Mr.
to go
Sergeant,
overboard with the
yeah,
two
that's
titles
a good
there.
point. It's just better just stick to Sergeant Drano. Anyway, if you would like to email us, you can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on the battle between the Liberator and the Andromedans.
How long did it really take?
You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Zenith, the Blake 7 Podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're starting Series C with Aftermath. But until then, the end.